All right, guys, welcome back to the Church Debater and Preacher Mike. Mike, how's your Sunday so far?
Man, I'll tell you what, it's been outstanding. I have had a great day because we've had a day of sin.
We did. You going to explain that, or let's just leave them thinking?
Well, I suppose after that,
go ahead.
I suppose after that, I probably ought to explain something.
Go ahead.
The theme for the day was to understand sin and how to avoid it. So that's what I called it, just a day of sin. So
one of the phrases you used to open your lesson was a phrase I use in high school before. In fact, every time I get a new batch of students, I use this phrase.
Okay.
Because I like to just see their mouths drop in class. Because I always say, sin is fun.
Yeah.
Right? And they look at me like, what are we supposed to say?
Oh,
and I said, well, that's why we have such a problem with it. We wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun.
There you go.
And then we have to correct our actions.
If it was like taking medicine, we wouldn't do it all the time.
That's right.
There you go.
So get this. I thought I was maybe, in fact, I know it's a topic that you and I will finally disagree about.
No, ain't no way. We figured out that it's not going to happen.
But after going to class this morning, I've changed my mind. I'm saving that topic until next time.
Wow.
So I'm going to try to set you up.
Okay.
And then break you down and see how you survive here.
You are good at that. So.
All right. I want you to put yourself back in the days of Jesus. Let's say you were one of the persons living back then, walking around, you knew of Jesus, was before he chose his apostles. First of all, why didn't Jesus ask for volunteers when he was choosing his apostles?
That's an interesting question. I don't guess I've ever even been posed that one before. That's
what I try, man. I try my best.
I would say in that setting that because it was such a unique and necessary and important mission that he had to have certain types of men but now you have to remember too, even though he chose specifically those and didn't ask for volunteers, as you say, their mission was to go and get volunteers. So at least the second group were volunteers.
What verse was that?
Matthew 28. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So
you're using the V word. I mean, that word's not in that scripture.
Oh, that's true. No, you're right. But it's a free will volunteer.
I'm keeping you straight.
Yeah.
I'm keeping you straight.
I like it.
All right. You can probably already see where this is headed. All right. Now,
go.
All right. So he didn't ask for volunteers.
Right.
And you really partially answered this question already. Did he choose those 12 randomly?
I don't think so. Not at all. I think.
Did he choose them before he came to earth?
That's a good question too. On one answer would be God knows everything that's going to happen before it happens. So yes, but in time, did Jesus choose them before he started? I'd say no.
Okay.
Chose them in eternity, but not in time.
Right. And I agree with you. I think he chose them probably because, not that he could if he wanted to, but not because he could see into the future and know what was happening, but more for their traits, their personalities. I mean, we know Peter had his problems. Obviously, Judas had his problems. Later on, Saul/Paul had his problems. So, but he still saw the potential in all of those men. And in fact, trained them a bit, don't you think?
Oh, I absolutely believe that. I think his message, even in the choosing, had an implicit message because he chose. Why would he take Simon, the zealot, who was a Jewish man, had been involved in clandestine operations to get the Romans out of Jerusalem?
Right.
That's the group of the zealots. And put him in the same group with a Jew who worked for the Roman government as a tax
Good
collector.
point. Almost like 1960s, almost like different groups of people coming together.
I see what you're saying.
And having a hard time getting along. All right. So this is just a side note.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just dream this, or did Peter actually not answer the apostle call until the second time he was asked?
Ooh.
I think I read that. That might have been in the Killing Jesus book.
See,
Not that he didn't say no the first time. He just didn't answer the first time. Does that sound right?
No, but I would not. I can see there was a time when they went back to fishing. I know that.
Yes.
But was that before or after? That's a good question. I might be flipping through my Bible while you're talking.
All right. Flip through your Bible. The point I want to make is Jesus knew that these 12 roles were important enough for the establishment of his church. He did not simply just ask for volunteers.
That's exactly right.
He handpicked them, so to speak.
That's a better way of saying it.
Okay.
Than what I said.
All right. So I don't know about that. So here's where I'm going.
Okay.
And I'll bring up comments I said in class, comments that another member said in class. I know she wouldn't mind us using her name, but I didn't ask her permission, so I won't. Hope she
Are you talking
listens
about high school class today?
No. Your class today.
Oh, my
Your
class. I know what you're saying. Okay, I got
your class today.
Gotcha.
So I liked this comment, and in fact got a little excited about it because the observation of this member was, it seems like I shouldn't use quotation marks in that way, that churches let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
What is our membership number, generally speaking, now?
That's an interesting thing. Just so for our people, they will understand this. And for people who are not here,
sure,
I'll explain it.
Okay.
Realm is our internal communication method for our church.
Yeah. In fact, I could have looked it up now that I think about it.
Well,
yeah.
and in that realm, everybody who is officially a member here and chooses to be is a part of that realm group.
Yes.
And when you look it up, apparently there are about 490 people in that realm group.
Which some would be not yet baptized members.
Yes.
Okay.
But there are 490 people who identify this is their church, if you will.
Okay. You want to say 350 members? 375?
Before COVID hit, we were averaging 330 to 345.
Okay. How many years have we been averaging 330 to 350?
I would think that was probably the last 2 or 3 years before COVID. That's where we were.
But we weren't significantly smaller than that even before that.
It was a gradual growth. Okay.
That's going to be part of my point.
Okay.
We haven't seen monstrous growth. We obviously have scriptures that tell us we need to evangelize and grow.
Right.
It doesn't give us a number.
Right.
It does address the quality of the Christian and how you shouldn't just bring them in.
Right.
Or as a number. There
you go. That's right.
All right. So with that in mind, the member in class today said, why is it that it seems like churches in the area who have seen the most monstrous growth, they've got hired, they call them ministers. I don't know if everybody calls them ministers, but they've got hired people for the big chunks of everything they do. And that's, maybe it was after the effect, but that's when their attendance took off. And she made that as a suggestion. And if you remember what I said, I totally supported that. In fact, I was a little bit excited about it. Then I made my comment about how I think sometimes old people like me are too stubborn to admit that some of the younger person's ideas are better than mine. I don't want to admit it sometimes. So but what I was disappointed about is within 15 minutes of that comment that I was excited about, we were already back to saying a bunch of good volunteers can accomplish the same thing. I disagree with that because we've said that for 20 years and we are in a stagnant growth pattern. It's not happening. I think it's time, and it's lousy timing because our budget just came out. I wondered why the word spiritual was used so much in class this morning. For some reason, given what we're talking about, that word specifically didn't seem to fall in place until I saw the cover of the book that was published. So that I understood why you felt like you had to use that word. I'm hitting you pretty hard today.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Why don't we hire more people? I don't think we're going to grow significantly until we bite the bullet and do that. Go. And let me back up a little. I got one more comment I meant to make as part of this package. And this isn't an indictment a bit on me, because what I've lost a little interest in teaching the high school class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to blame the parents a little bit about it. It's hard to get myself motivated when we know that there's 25 to 30 high school students in the building.
Yep.
And there would be times in high school class, which starts an hour before worship, where there's only 3 students in there.
I know.
And even though those 3 students are important to me, and probably the reasons the others aren't there is actually their parents didn't bring them there.
Yep.
I'm discouraged about that. I think if I wasn't involved with other things, and instead I'm not saying that I want to do this, but instead, if the teacher was a hired person whose job, I hate to use the word job, but you know what I mean, whose paid function within the church is to help improve that situation, I don't think that's going to change. So why do we keep depending on volunteers who, bless their hearts, do the best they can, but they all have other full-time jobs? Why can't we hire more people whose paid function is to improve those situations?
I don't have any problem with what was said in class and with what you're saying now. I think that there is evidence that sometimes we overlook that you're exactly right. For instance, and it's not just because, or maybe even primarily because of the personality or quality of the preaching on a week-to-week basis, but how many churches thrive without a full-time paid preacher? How many? Not many.
Not many.
Because we don't.
To me, that strengthens my point.
That's my point. That's what I said.
Okay.
That's the proof. That's a proof.
Yeah.
We have decided.
I like that. That's a very good. I like that.
For us to be what we need to be, we decided, and this church has, for its existence, decided to hire a person to be in that position full time. So the idea that says we can operate fully on volunteers, we don't even believe in that area. So I think the mentality we understand. Obviously, it's not financially possible until you get to a certain size, or at least financial giving, to have more than one.
But that's a catch-22. There's got to be a solution.
Oh yeah.
We can't hire them until we get there, and we won't get there unless we hire them.
But we said the exact same thing the last time we talked about building the new facility. And that is, the new facility is going to open up so many opportunities for us that why would we wait? Just go ahead and get it done. The 2 major things that this church needs, and I think that most churches in this society need, are a very useful, practical facility, structural facility to accomplish so many things besides just having a Bible class.
I agree.
And number two, having on staff people who can devote their time fully to managing the things that we want to do with and through that facility.
Amen.
I have no problem with that. And so,
oh, by the
I'm all
way,
on board.
I told you I wanted a volleyball league in there.
Yep.
You know what pickleball is?
Oh yeah, I've never played it,
That's
but I think
what
it's
we
great.
need, man. That
I
would
agree
bring
with
the
you.
people in, I think. Sorry about that. Go ahead. I
No,
didn't want to ruin your
think
thought.
You're exactly right. I already agree with that. That's not a problem. So,
what do we do then?
Well,
We
I
have been
think-
stagnant for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
I think we wouldn't be if we had more people like you that are paid to help out with the growth of the church. You can't do it by yourself.
Right.
Maybe with other paid individuals whose regular time is spent doing that instead of just voluntary time. And whether we like to admit it or not, everybody seems like they're so busy now. We will volunteer as we can. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I'm not denying that.
So what's the solution? Is there a scriptural solution?
Well,
We're in
yes.
this rut. So how do we fix it?
Yeah, I think there's a scriptural solution that is tied to the
Somebody's waving at us.
structure. Oh, hello, whoever that is in there. Hang on, looks like I thought it might be Oren, but anyway, here is the scriptural solution is tied to the scriptural structure, and we can't avoid that. Shepherd the flock that is among you, 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 1-4. A shepherding group must understand their flock. They must understand who these people are, how they can be reached, listen to them, take information, make them lead them where they need to go. We have done this about 3 or 4 years ago, about a year or two before COVID. We put out a big survey, the elders did. And there were two questions. There was one question that was split 50-50. Now, admittedly, a very small number of people did the survey, but of the ones who turned it in, it was 50-50 split, hiring someone and building a facility.
That's because people become lackadaisical. They don't want things to change.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that can't be true, because building a facility is change. Hiring someone is change. So they don't
Did
mind
more
the
than
change.
50% of the people say build the facility?
What I'm saying is, of the people who turned in the survey, now there were a lot of people who didn't fill it
They
out.
didn't turn it in.
Right.
That's a good point.
But of the ones who did, it was a 50-50 split.
So the ones
whether-
that chose to turn it in, it was a 50-50 split.
Yes. And so what is a shepherding group supposed to do?
Yeah.
They have to make a decision. And so I don't think that it is proper, obviously, to create some kind of upheaval to get what you want. Because if one group creates an upheaval to build a facility, another one creates an upheaval to hire someone, you got real trouble. So I think that's the scriptural solution is our elders, our shepherds must take the lead. Now, I would be in favor of either or both of those options. What I was trying, I know you said you were excited and then you heard us end up backing off of it.
Within 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the reason I don't think we backed off of it, but what I wanted people to understand.
The reason I use that phrase as that another member leaned over to me and used that phrase in my ear.
Yeah.
They were excited about maybe hiring another person too. And once they heard all that talk, they said, well, that didn't last very long.
Well, when all of this is put together and we have a little document that the elders can read, you understand, that'll be in there. But here's my point. Whether we hire someone, build a facility, or simply operate on volunteers, yeah, there will be differences as how effective those things will be. But the number one thing that has to happen is for every individual to decide, I'm going to be a part of the work of this church, no matter what is decided. I'm going to give my opinion and I'm going to voice it hard, but I'm involved no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't really think that's part of what we're talking about.
Well, I do, because I think that if we say that the only way to do whatever we're going to do is to hire somebody or to build a facility, it doesn't guarantee that people are going to be a part unless they have decided, I'm going to be a part. And that being a part has to happen before either someone is hired or a facility is built. I think each individual needs to say, I'm on board. I'm with you. Here's my opinion. Here's what I want to do, but let's move. Let's do something and I'll be there. And so I wanted to understand.
They won't say that. They won't say that. They'll say, I'll be there as much as I can.
Well, that's fine too. But that would be true whether we had somebody hired or not.
No, it wouldn't, because if we had somebody hired, that person would be there all the time. And all of us volunteers, as we can, would help support that person.
I get that, but let's look at it this way. What if, and let's just take an example. Let's say we have 5 things coming up. Let's put it in the youth category. We have a trip, or we have a monthly devotional thing that the kids go to.
And Kim and I used to do that with them too.
You
way back when.
You got CYC, you have Lads to Leaders, you have the summer youth series, and you have camp. Let's take those 5 things. Now you could have a man hired who would come in here and manage all 5 of those, and it would be very helpful. But you could also say, I need 5 volunteers, and this person would say, well, I have time to do this one, and I have time to do this one. And you don't do the other 4, you just are in charge of the one. So my point still stands. You can make until we decide to hire somebody, we can make it on volunteers if we don't expect the volunteers to be at everything all the time.
Okay, I'll give you that one, as long as we're talking about that being temporary.
Oh, I think
that will not be something that lasts forever.
But I honestly do. You may not believe this, but I honestly do believe that hiring another person is on the horizon.
Okay. All right.
And I'm in favor of it.
I'm thinking about it from an evangelism standpoint.
I understand that.
We can say anything we want to. We have been stagnant. And until we get our focus back on evangelism, I don't think we talk about it enough. We come in here, complacent's probably too strong of a word, but we just get used to going through the motions, and our new members, not all of them, most of them find us rather than, we talked about this last time, find us rather than us going out and finding them.
But see, I disagree with you, because a lot of those found us because of our online presence.
I told you we'd disagree tonight. I told you, didn't I? I promised you we would.
You did it. We have an online presence that is so good that we have people come to us because of it. I can guarantee.
Oh, good. That was a perfect comment about something I'll bring up in the future.
Okay. Well, see, that's part of our outreach. So
yes, it is.
They have come to us because we went to them through that avenue.
Okay.
So that's part of it. And I also think that there are plenty of other things that we certainly can do. You're not going to find a disagreement on this side of the camera, the microphone, on hiring someone. You're also not going to find disagreement on building the facility that we need to do what we want to do. I'm on board for all of it.
I know you are.
So the only thing that I think we need to do is have certain people just open up and say, look, we're going to give this much more so we can make it done.
Okay. All right. We probably need to wind it down.
Okay.
And I would just tell our listeners out there, if you thought maybe this was the most we've disagreed, so far on this show, just wait until next week. Tune in next week because the next one's going to be stronger.
Oh,
All
man.
right.
I like it.
So
Wow.
I will say this, and yeah, I know you know this. I love everybody there,
Sure.
but the volunteers are important.
Yep.
But I think the comment made by the member in class today about why do all these massive growth churches, it seems like they all have these hired individuals that are helping with those programs, and that's why they get to be so strong. So with that in mind, give us your profound thought of the week.
My profound thought of the week will be connected to what we had discussed all day. And that is, I want people to know that you can't be so sinful, so bad, so awful that you can't come back to the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Cain, he decided he didn't want to come back. His path was set. Genesis 4:16, he went away from the presence of the Lord. You don't have to be that way. It doesn't matter where you've been and what you've done. You can come back. And I'll tell you this one step further, Greg Collins, the Richmond Church will take you. We'll work with you. We'll support you. We'll help you. We'll study with you. We'll pray with you, because that's what we do here.
Doesn't matter what you were involved with.
Exactly right.
Right. Good deal. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Church debater and preacher Mike. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.